My name is Jim Ertl, and I wanted to talk to you about retinopathy today and the eye injections that I had that helped to save me from it. Uh, Back in 2012, of course, I had that's when I found out that I had kidney disease, and it was caused from high blood pressure. But in my initial stay in the hospital, before had figured out everything that was actually going on with the cause of everything, I had an episode one night in there where my blood pressure really spiked quite highly, and it actually broke blood vessels in my retinas. Is pretty much what retinopathy is. And I remember after this whole deal happened, they ended up giving me a BPAP machine to bring me back to help. I had a lot of fluid buildup in my lungs, but when I woke up, I remember the next morning I tried to read the paper, and everything was just like waves, like the letters on the paper were way I couldn't read. And I was telling them they didn't have no eye clinic at the hospital I was at the time. It was called Unity in Rochester, New York. And they said, well, we're going to figure out the kidney issues first, which, of course I agreed. But the eyes were just getting worse and worse. By the time I finally got out of the hospital, uh, like going down the street, I would be in the like looking at the houses on the side of the road, just looked like blurs. Like I couldn't make nothing out. So I went to my appointment in Batavia with a local place, and my doctor there, she looked me all over, and of course I had just gotten put on dialysis, so things were pretty tough as it was. But she looked me all over, and she says, oh, "Okay," she says, "Yeah, looks like retina." She goes, "Listen," she goes, "You go home, come back in a month." She goes, "Most of the time that should clear up on its own, and you should be fine." I says, "Well, okay." I was happy to hear that because, like I say, there was plenty of things going on at the time anyway. So I went home, come back in the month, and it was getting worse. Like I couldn't read nothing. I mean, it was pretty blurry. Like it was lower. Like watching TV was. I heard it, but you really couldn't make much out. So I told her, I'm like, it's not better at all. I says, might be worse, if anything. Same thing. You know what? She says, you go home and you come back and see me in a month again. She was an Oreo, she was an Oriental woman. She called me Mr. Jim. You know, she's, you go home, everything be good. I'm like, all right. So did it again. Third month, come back, same deal. And it was to the point I'm really thinking I'm going blind or something. And she says, "Yeah, these things." I says, "Listen, is there a supervisor or somebody, like, I don't want to be rude, but like it's not getting better." I says, "I need to do as well." She says, our head office is out in Warsaw. You can go out there and have him look. So I went out there to their head guy, and he looked me over. He goes, "Well, I don't even know what to do here." He says, like, "I don't even know if there's anything I can do at all." He goes, "My God," he says, it's unbelievable the damage. I'm like, well, whoa. I'm like, the girl back in your office, the table, is telling me it's going to clear up on its own. I says, he goes, no. He goes, I don't know what she's talking. He says, best thing I could do, I could try and give you an injection. And I'm like, what do you mean an injection in the eye? He says, yeah. He says, that's what we do. We use, and so I'm like, boy, So I remember sitting in the chair, and he told me what he was going to use. He says, we use two drugs. He goes, we're gonna inject you with two needles. First one's going to be dexamethasone, which I knew from the horses. Dex, brings down inflammation, lots of things like that. I'm thinking, geez, I'm going to get a shot of Dex in the eye. You know. So he said the second one will be Avastin. It's a new drug that's out at the time, and he says we're trying that to do it. So I remember sitting in the chair, and he gave me the first one with the Dex. And before he come walking right at you with the needle, and the needle was like, I passed right out. I remember waking up on the floor. They had your legs up in the air and whatnot. And anyhow, I don't think I even got the second injection in before all that happened. But I remember thinking, my gosh, and then I ended up, my regular eye doctor says, look, where else can we go? And they sent me to a place in Buffalo. I actually forget the name of it, but they looked at me and they says, we can do some lasers. The blood vessels had started to get like, a little bit, they're open, they're broke down. So retinopathy, new blood vessels will try to form to take place of the ones that broke. And unfortunately, those new ones, they don't get built enough. They can't take much pressure and they'll break. So they hit you with lasers on your retina and it burns them and it stops them from growing because they won't do you any good. They'll actually do you more harm and cause more blood to leak. So I remember going to Buffalo for about 3 treatments of that. I think I took, I don't know, and in the one eye, I think I ended up about maybe 800 to 1,000 dots from the lasers. And in my left eye, which the left eye was in better shape than the right had more damage. The left eye, I think I took probably 2,000 hits with the on the retina with the lasers, and they claim that that would, stop some of the things. And after they do that, I remember you on the ride home, like you'd wear the dark glasses and everything, and you wouldn't come back to seeing really good much of anything, which wasn't really good anyhow, but it was what it was, and we kept going on. And one night in the middle of the night, I remember I woke up and everything was red. Like it was like looking through a red thing. I was like, oh, like this isn't good. A bigger vessel, it must have broken. The blood was actually inside the eyeball itself, and with all the fluid, so we took an emergency ride up to URMC, and that's when they started with their injections, and they did the Avastin injection a whole different way. They never did mess with the right eye again, and the left eye low is what they started concentrating on then. And their way of doing it was way different. I mean, it was primitive. The first place that I had gone to, like they stuck a Q-tip with drops on it under your eyelid. You had to hold that for like a minute or two. Then they did a different one. URMC was just a drop. You took one drop, wait about maybe 3 minutes. They come in another drop, another, and then they did it again. You took about 3 drops. One was a number, one was antibiotic, and forget the third. But with the 3 of them, then he comes in, and they had a way better way of doing it too. Like it was my left eye. He says, what I want you to do is just look down at my knee down here, and then they come in from the side to hit it. And you really don't feel nothing. It sounds crazy and everything. The only thing it does when they disperse it and they push it in, it was like when you're a kid looking through those kaleidoscopes and everything kind of rolls around like that, and you kind of don't see anything. Then you're done. It would take about 5-6 hours. I remember thinking, geez, I hope they come back, but I ended up taking 12 shots like that, 12 different appointments in that eye, and I got to say, like at the time when that was out, it's been out now and it's all FDA approved and everything. But back then, they said that it was a trial and they were just trying it. But I was thankful that that worked. Today, I could test it like 20/30 and 20/40, I think, within the 2 eyes. But from the laser shots, it's like little holes, like dead spots. So I haven't driven since. Like I can see good enough. Like what happens is a quick thing. Like if a kid ran out or a deer or something, I won't pick up on that as quickly as I should. So I would never want to hurt somebody else is why I don't drive. I mean, riding with a Renalo, I drive her nuts because look out, look out for that. I thought you're the one that can't, but to any extent, I know my uncle had to just get injections like that through that. I mean, it's a scary thing when they tell you they're going to get your eye, but truthfully, if you have to go through that, it's very big with the diabetics. When I was at dialysis, for some reason it goes together. The vessels in your kidneys and in your retina are about the same. They're very, very small, and they can break for some reason. The people with kidney disease, it kind of goes together. There was many of them at dialysis. One guy would be blind in one eye. They all had that same kind of thing. It seemed it was very common. So, just diabetes alone will cause retinopathy. When I go see other doctors, they'll say, gee, how long you been a diabetic? From all they see the laser shots. But I'm like, I'm not a diabetic, never was. And tell them the story, And of course, high blood pressure can be the other cause of it. But to any extent, if you ever get where you got to have those injections, I do say they're not as bad as they sound. You don't feel it. Of course, you get past the the needle in the eye thing, but it does work. I'll say it helped me immensely, and definitely saved me, because at one point I didn't think I'd be able to see again. And like I say, I could test 20/30, 20/35, but there is a few spots, but at least I get around and I can get along, and I'm thankful for that. So if you ever have to get the Avastin injections, go ahead, build up your nerve. I know it's not an easy deal, but it really is not as bad as it sounds. Okay, thanks a lot.